school, public elementary school. Yeah, I spent 2 years there, and it was really traumatic. But then when you go to high school, usually in my country, high school, you don't teacher do not beat you anymore. It's stopped. Some teacher or there are always teacher who try to. Anyway, they try. But most of the time, when you finish elementary school, you get into the high school years. Usually, that's when the beating stop. And talking about the beating, like I described to you in my previous video, you understand that it was very traumatic. It was definitely traumatic. And when I came back to my country, I couldn't even go to visit that school specifically because when I was in front of the gate of the school, all the memories, the traumatic memory came back. So I was like, no, no, it's impossible. But when you see this compulsive habit of teachers who have studied education, who have studied something that we call pedagogy in French, pedagogy, I don't know how they say it in English, learn the children, know how the children feel and think. You can tell for sure that there is something that it doesn't make any sense the way they were beating us. And for sure, I believe that it was, you can tell for sure that there is a problem of a trauma somewhere. Because when thinking about it, what I want to say is, I believe because when they were beating, you saw how they were pleased. They enjoy torturing, beating us. Like I say, like I say, this, okay? This. In high school, it became no longer acceptable. And I remember that was in Gabon. I went to another country, like I say, after my primary school, I left my country. I went to another African country to study, okay? And there, some professor, we say professor in high school? Yeah, professor, because in France we say professor when you're in high school. They start, how do you say that? Some of them didn't do that anymore, but some of them were still trying to beat. And my Latin professor, Latin, because it was a Catholic school, high school, was beating. Not like the those in the primary. It was beating, like it was hitting, beam, 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 high our hands, So what happened is, I had enough because I already knew that before. So I didn't know it was, if you had bad grades, it was beating the hand and it was difficult. One day, I think the principal of the school, I saw him, and because I was often, to his place, and then sometimes I would go to the office and such. He asked me one day, "Have you heard about professors who are beating some students in the school, in the high school? I mean, in our school?" Of course, I say yes, because mine was doing that. One of the teachers, because we have different professors, right? But the Latin one and the French, the Latin, and the English one were still beating, but the one who was worse of them all was the Latin one. He had a personal issue. I mean, it was very not nice person. And the principal asked me, "Do you know? Do you know?" I say yes, in my own class. No, I didn't even think twice. I threw him under the bus. I didn't have time to hide it anymore. Enough is enough, And he asked me, "What happened?" I say, "He beat us. Like, it's really hurting. Sometimes your hands are swelling because it's so." Rage. It become rage because, and then you have to write right after that. You know, he said that's not possible. So I left the office, I think, and for some reason, I think because the professor's place, they have their own, the place where the professor is sitting and doing the stuff sometimes. I think he saw me coming out of the office of the principal. I think he saw me, and he already knew that I was coming. I was going often to the principal home. I was there often because, yeah, I was there often, saying that I was almost living there, almost. So I was the right person who could be reporting stuff to him. Easy. And then when the principal asked me, told me that I was scared for to tell the truth, what I know. But he told me, don't be afraid, just tell me what you know. And that period, I remember there was a girl who was in Africa, we have different branches of in high school. You have those who have more high. How can I say that? Because you have different classes, but there are those you have those who are more into literature, more into they have like a high coefficient in mathematics, for example, coefficient everything that is science. For example, after 1, 2, 3, the 3 years, I will say like that, academic years, you have now different variation, like those who are coefficient who are going more into science. You have those who are go more into literature and languages and this and this and this. But we all study the same thing, but the coefficient is going to be higher than some in other, disciplines, higher branch, higher than other branches. Sorry, oh my God, English, huh? So what happened? The He asked me this question, and I left the class. I left the office. He told me, "Don't be afraid." I'm not gonna reveal who say what because I heard. Yeah, because there was a girl who was in a there was a girl who was in the science, branches. Then she was in the class of the one who the one class for the high school diploma, preparing high school diploma years, and the way the professor beat her, she was rolling on the floor because she made a mistake, and the professor had huge expectation on this on that student, especially in the Catholic school where I was. It was girl on the side in classes, only classes of girls, only classes of boys. No, we are separated. And she was a girl, and she was among the best. And I think she made a mistake with some of an exam, I don't know. And the professor had a high expectation on her, beat her. He beat her seriously to the point that she almost fell out of the balcony. So I think the principal heard that situation. It was traumatic. Yeah, I remember it was very traumatic because we were in the same class, but we heard how she was crying and shouting of pain. So yeah, investigation started. It was definitely traumatic for other students around, like me, who already had a background. Who already have this kind of experience before. Like I told you, in elementary school, the teacher who asked a girl to have two stones, two stones on her hand, one side like she was doing, like she was doing the balance. And then what happened? She asked a student, she asked her, go take big stones outside. She brought the stone in the classroom, and then she had to stay on her knee, like on the knee, on the knees. And what happened? She called another student, like a boy, to put the stone on each hand, and then it had to be stable. It wasn't like not moving. And what the teacher was doing, she was, with that, beating her with the stone. So I saw so many things myself. She was beating everybody in the classroom like that. So It wasn't something, no, but something that I couldn't accept anymore. It was not possible in my head anymore. So what happened? He told me, he asked me, and I told him that you have a teacher who was also like that, the professor was like that, the Latin professor. We study Latin in Catholic school usually, you know. I had the, my first year of Latin was difficult because it was brand new for me and I didn't really like, to be honest, I didn't understand Latin, because it was like, and I felt like, where am I going to use Latin? But actually, yeah, as a French speaker, Latin was important because we have many words in French that have Latin roots, even in Spanish, Latin roots, and and yeah, because actually we the Latin speaker, we have to have knowledge, because when you want to decompose, you say that, decompose the word, you find the Latin, and you have Latin words, like in Spanish, like in Portuguese, like in Italian, you have the Latin words anyway. So it helped me a lot, but I didn't think, well, am I going to use Latin, like the very rough Latin that we were studying? It was already difficult for me to process that. What am I going to do with it? But also to learn something that was new. And the thing is, anyway, let's go on. So I think the day after, the principal called for a school meeting, like every professor, okay, come, we have to talk. Then I think he talked to them about also the aspect of beating students. Obviously, we talked about that because he was very categorical. He was really like, I do not want it in my school anymore. Like in my high school, it's forbidden. For compared to the principal I had in my elementary school back home, who was having fun to beat us in elementary school. You want to see her to complain, she say, what do you mean? Oh, we are beaten by the teacher every time. She even say, come here. At the same time, so it was crazy. But that principal in high school say, not in my school. Not, I don't want to have this habit. Why? Because that principal uh, live in Europe. Yeah, of course, it makes sense to me. But uh, everybody does not necessarily like the beating, but most of the people, you know, I think most of the people in Africa are okay. Like this generation, our parents' generation, because it comes from. I truly believe that it's a post-traumatic. Um, it's colonial. It's colonialism. It's post-colonialism trauma. I'm very sure of that because the colonizer, people who were colonizing African, what they were doing, they were beating African every time. They were beating, they were torturing them, like beat. So I truly believe that it comes from there, and this is one of the consequences of colonialism. People have been traumatized. So I truly believe that this is because, yeah, if you read books how colonialism was working, they were forbidden to do their own traditional stuff. They were coming and see what are you doing. If you are even drinking stuff of the country, I mean, it was really traumatic, and they were beating. And when you read what people said, that this colonizer, I don't know how you say that, colonizer said that the only way, okay, black people could understand is to be beaten. So now understand what it means, okay? And then who after that, we see that parents, I mean not parent, but the time of our grandparent, what happened? Not only, but it was like serious beating. Anyway, so the guy was hitting our hand, and when he was doing that, he would take like a really serious, um, he would like almost break your hand, your bones. You will feel like you're about to lose your hand, maybe. I was horrible. So he won, I think, the day because they had to leave the classes because they were called for a meeting. Yeah, of course, he had to go to the meeting. When he came back from the meeting, he came back from the meeting. He said, he came back from the meeting. He said,